Just wanted to go over this product one more time. Lumabase 4:1 DTM primer, epoxy primer activator. So lv40, lv41, it's a 4:1 mix. Compared to VP 2050 or CRE 321 and CRE 921, those are pretty thick and sandable. This stuff does require a 1.8 tip, but it does go on a little thinner. So let me show you how that goes on. And we did, I'm going to say 2.5 fat coats. Now what I mean by that is we went over some of the work with one coat, and we did everything we wanted with a second coat, and then a third coat. Pros and cons. Pros are, you've got an epoxy. Now, I've had hit and miss with the Lumabase sealer, but with this stuff, it's a little bit thicker than what a 2K urethane primer would be. And the price I'm paying for this versus one of the 2Ks I was using is pretty close as far as price goes. But what I like with this, even though it goes on relatively thick where you want it to, if you see here where it's oversprayed, there's not a lot here. Now this does have to be sanded, but I mean you can do like a 400 or a Scotch Bright Red and you're ready to go. Now some guys will say 600, 800. You got to look at the TDS sheet of the paint you're using. We're going to use, it's just a Chevy Silver. We're just going to repaint the two box sides on this truck. And we're going to use Limco Supreme base coat. And then we'll do 2 coats of a nice fat, what is it called? Pure Reflections. 401 I believe it's called. So, which is just a clear coat. Our TDS for that particular base coat is 400. Well, between 400 and 500. So you don't want to do 600 or 800 and then put something like that on if it's telling you not to, right? So you got to kind of watch that. You want to get bite. Now on a show car, smoother and smoother and smoother is better. This is a truck. The guy works in the bush. We want that stuff to stick because he's going to bang it up and put rub marks on it. There was lots of them in it when we started, so we want to make sure it's adhered good. Cosmetically, this is a work truck paint job, so this isn't going to be crazy. Now it's going to look fine to 99.9% of the people out there. They'll walk by this truck and it'll just look like, hey, that's a nice old truck. And that's all we're going for. Now if you put it on a little bit on the fat side, this can happen, but you're sanding it anyway, so let that tack and do your last coat. So that was a little bit wetter than I would have liked. It only takes 10 minutes to 15 minutes of flash time, so that's on me. But we'll sand that off real quick. We'll just spin it off with the with a sander, palm sander with 400 on it. We'll hand sand the rest with 400. And again, like, this is smooth, smooth, smooth. I don't know if I can catch it. There's virtually no orange peel in it, and we put it on fat with a 1.8 tip. But I find what happens with this stuff, you can see here where that silver paint showing through. We're going to run over that with 400. And there's barely any overspray on it. There isn't a lot of texture there. But you do got to sand it. Now there doesn't seem to be anything in the TDS sheet for this stuff as far as putting an epoxy on. Some of them, if you paint on them soon enough, CRE 321, I think they say within 4 days, or a minimum of so many hours. So a few hours later you could paint right over it. It doesn't smoothen out quite as good as this. But anyway, it doesn't say that you can thin this down and use it as a sealer. That's so thin, however, man, does it ever, it smoothens right out. My thought is, if you wanted to use it as a sealer, maybe with a single stage paint or something like that, because it would just bury this and it wouldn't even matter. But TDS says do what I did and sand it as per TDS of the paint going on top of it. Pretty happy with this. So to recap what we did here, somewhere in here we got new wheel arches glued on. And then from the tail of the wheel arch down to the bottom, there's new steel in here on all four corners. So basically all that metal you see around the wheel well is brand new. The rest of the truck is pretty decent. Rockers are bad. We're gonna make patches, but they're pretty rough, so we're gonna cut them off. We're gonna glue those on. You're right, I said glue. That's what all the big body shops are doing now, so that's what we're doing too. Old car restoration, I would definitely weld, but we basically just left an inch, overlap everywhere, glued them on, pop riveted, that clamps the glue, ground all the pop rivet heads off, did our body work. So down here, we didn't just go here, we actually came all the way to this edge and bent that in. We used a shrinker stretcher for that, and a brake, Harbor Freight style brake, to put a line in it. And as you can see, I should spray it so that it's wet, but you can see the body line matches the truck. I don't think it's 100%, but it's awfully close. I mean, this thing came out smooth. Now we also had to put a big patch in here because we found some thinner metals pinholing. So we cut out everything that was bad, we put another patch in there. So this whole bottom area is pretty much redone up to about here. But this is a nice foundation. It'll lock everything in. It'll seal off our bodywork. It's epoxy, so it won't absorb anything. It won't give you little halos and shadows and that sort of stuff. So we'll probably sand this in the morning, and if we have time we'll paint it. We're going through a bit of a heat wave, and if it gets too hot we'll wait till evening and paint it. But at any rate, I really didn't like the Lumabase sealer, but this is the second, third, maybe the third time I've used this stuff. Absolutely love this stuff. It's pretty good. Now it's not like Cree 321 as far as thickness build goes. Little pinholes and stuff, we had some over where I ran the primer. That's what happened. I kind of buried them and they're gone. But it doesn't pile up like the Cree 321 or the VP 2050. So your bodywork's got to be pretty smooth, and it'll give you enough you can sand the crap out of this. Even a few imperfections, you'll be fine. I mean, and because it's an epoxy, you could technically, if you had a bad spot, you could do a bit of body work and just kind of prime that in, and that would be fine too. So but that's the stuff. It's good. Thanks for watching.